Yo, what's up guys, it's Talon. Today I'm going to be ranking the best and worst roles to carry on in solo queue. So this is specifically going to be for solo queue, and I'm going to acknowledge in each ranking the differences depending on the elo you are at, but it's going to be an overall average of what I feel is the easiest and hardest roles to climb on solo queue only. So I've obviously made it to a challenger on 4 roles. The only role that I did purely solo queue was jungle. The other ones I'd done partially solo, partially duo queue. And I've also played a decent amount of solo queue even on support as well. So on all the roles, you know, I've played some solo queue. I kind of understand what it's like. And I just want to acknowledge to you guys, just because I rank your role low in terms of being able to carry does not mean you can't carry. Every single role in the game, if you are good enough, you can carry on in any elo 100%. Some may be harder or easier, but definitely, in my opinion, the best way to climb is to stick to whatever role you're best at and not worry about how easy or hard it is to climb. So 100%, regardless of what I say in this ranking video, make sure that you guys understand you can carry on any role, and as long as you focus on improving, focus on getting good, and just you can carry regardless. So anyways, let's get into the ranking. Okay guys, so at number 5 we do have support, and there's definitely a lot of caveats I have to make to this. So first I'm going to explain why I have support at 5th, and the simple reason for that is there's many champions who in solo queue specifically cannot impact the game as heavily due to the fact that, one, you're laning with someone else, meaning if your ADC makes a lot of mistakes early, it's going to be hard to get an early advantage. And then also some champions just don't have a ton of carry potential in the role. I'm thinking about a lot of the enchanters kind of when I make this statement. However, in higher elos, the higher you go, the better and more impactful support is. So if this ranking was in challenger, I would put support higher, for example. But if we're talking about an average, including low elos and high elos, in the lower elos, it's really hard to carry on support, especially before you get to, I would say, Master Plus. So for that reason, I have support lower. But additionally, tank supports, I feel, are very good at carrying games because of the high roaming potential. However, in lane, it's quite difficult to pull those off, so you have to be pretty good to pull those off in lane oftentimes. Whereas enchanters are very good at carrying in lane, but later on in the game, it gets difficult. So the fact that a lot of these champions are not able to carry throughout the game, but rely on teammates at different points in the game, is why for solo queue specifically, and as an average of every rank, I think it is the worst to climb on in solo queue. However, again, the higher up you go, the easier it gets to climb on support. Okay guys, so next up we have top lane, and this is kind of the opposite of support in the sense that I think climbing in low elo is very easy on top lane because you can often stomp your lane opponent very easily and snowball the game so out of control that nobody can deal with you on the side lane, or you just come to team fights super fed as like an Aatrox or something, for example. However, the higher up you go, the more it feels quite difficult to carry solo on top lane for the simple fact that you are very disjointed from the rest of the map, meaning that you can't necessarily impact a lot of fights early on. You can't really affect the game until first dragon, apart from just simply winning your lane. However, that said, I think a lot of people don't understand how to carry on top lane, which is really not only getting an advantage in your lane, but spreading that advantage to other parts of the map. So overall, just the fact that you're so disjointed from others and that you're not able to impact the game as often as other roles is why I have it 4th. But once again, if you have a big skill discrepancy between you and your opposing top laner, which often will happen in lower elos, you can carry very effectively on this role. Okay guys, so at number 3 we have mid lane, and I was really struggling between number 2 and number 3 and which to put where, but ultimately I decided in this specific meta that I think mid lane is a bit less impactful than the other 2 roles that I'm going to mention next. And really the reason for that is you do get to lane against an opponent, which means just like top lane, if you have a large skill discrepancy, you can really showcase your skill and you know, destroy that enemy mid laner, and then you can use that to snowball the advantages. And mid lane does have access to every part of the map because you can roam and stuff. However, sometimes you do get stuck in your lane because maybe you don't have a good matchup early on, or maybe you just have to protect your tower. So you do have the ability to roam, but the ability to roam is not the same as one which we'll mention later, which is jungle, of course, where you are more free to roam around because you're not tied down to any lane specifically protecting that lane, which is ultimately why I have it at number 3. But a lot of the champions in mid lane are very good at carrying. There's a lot of assassins, a lot of mages can carry, a lot of different champions that are very versatile, very good at carrying. So mid lane is definitely, in my opinion, far above top lane or support in general for climbing in solo queue, and is a very consistent role. And if you get really good at mid lane, you can 100% carry in any elo. Okay guys, so next we have ADC, and normally in most metas I would say ADC I would put at honestly like 3rd or 4th. The reason that it's up this high is because in this specific meta I feel like ADCs are really strong. They can really carry games very well if you get to the late game. A lot of hyper carry champions are really strong. A lot of the early game champions like Lucian, Draven, they're also quite good. So just the fact that all of the ADCs are quite strong, and if you are ever able to get a lead, or you're ever able to get to late game with a very strong team fighting champion and play really well in the team fights, you can carry super effectively. Now, the negatives of playing solo queue ADC are, of course, your support. Sometimes you just can't control what your support does, and they're gonna, kind of mess up your game a bit, and you're gonna get screwed over, and you're gonna have to scale up to really, remain effective and really carry those games. So the fact that sometimes the early game is quite difficult is what makes ADC at 2nd. And again, normally it would be lower, but just because of this specific meta, I feel like ADC is really strong. So I ended up deciding to put it 2nd overall. Okay guys, and lastly we have, of course, jungle. I mean, this role is just so OP in my opinion compared to every other role. Not only do you have access to every part of the map, you have access to by far the most gold on the map, because you can always farm your camps, your enemy camps. You can even farm your lanes at different points in the game. The champions in this role are very effective at carrying. You can play carry champions, you can play tanks that can gank really well and affect every lane. You can play pretty much any style. You can play champs that want to 1v1 the enemy jungler. You can invade them early, fight the bed scuttle. You can farm up, play hyper carries. So just the fact that there's so much versatility in this lane, alongside the fact that you can impact every part of the map without being tied down to any one lane, just makes this role so effective in carrying, and compared to any other role. But once again, despite that fact, I do think whatever role you are best at is the best to climb. So even if you're really good at support and you're not so good at jungle, I think it's going to be better for you to climb on support, even in solo queue, despite the fact that jungle is so strong. Again, any of these roles very effective to climb on if you just do get good enough at the game. But that's overall my ranking. Let me know your guys' ranking in the comments below, or what you guys would change, or just your thoughts in general on this ranking. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.